What if I told you that the world you navigate, the bustling streets, the digital whispers, the faces you pass every day, might not be entirely what they seem? What if the very fabric of this reality, this grand theater of existence, held secrets so profound, so unsettling, that it challenges the very core of what it means to be human? Look deeply, beyond the surface chatter, the predictable patterns, the echoes that seem to repeat endlessly. Do you ever feel a disconnect? A sense that not everyone is truly present in the same way you are? That some interactions feel hollow, automated, as if you're speaking to an echo in a vast, empty chamber? This isn't mere cynicism or a fleeting thought born of solitude. This is an ancient intuition, a whisper carried on the winds of time, hinted at in the most guarded corners of Sabadoria Ancestral and the deepest of Mysterios Occultos. It speaks of a reality layered with illusion, a construct designed, perhaps, to limit or contain. And within this construct, it suggests not every player is imbued with the same spark, the same inner flame. Consider this. Are you sure everyone around you possesses a conscious, unique, self-aware soul? Or are some merely reflections, programs, running their course, essential components of the simulation itself, perhaps acting as unseen architects or enforcers of the illusion without even knowing it? This is the disquieting heart of what we must investigate today. The possibility that a significant portion of humanity might be, in a sense, soulless, not in a moral judgment, but in an ontological one. This journey will lead us through forgotten pathways, examining textos prohibidos and whispered philosophies, often dismissed as mere myth or madness. We will touch upon the concept of energia cosmica and how it flows, or is perhaps withheld, from different aspects of this reality. It is an exploration that demands radical introspection, a form of alchemia interior, transforming not lead into gold, but ignorance into awareness. Preparing for this knowledge requires courage. It requires an openness to question everything you thought you knew about consciousness, about reality, about yourself. The goal is not judgment, but illuminica is spiritual, a clearer seeing, a deeper understanding of the cosmic game we are all invited to play. This is not just a theoretical exercise. It is an invitation to reclaim your perception, to sharpen your discernment, and to understand the true nature of the matrix we inhabit. If you feel that stirring within you, that undeniable pull towards the hidden truth, then you are precisely where you need to be. Join me. Allow this channel to be your guide through the veils. Like this video if you dare to question reality. Comment with your initial thoughts, your deepest curiosities, or the unsettling feelings this idea provokes. And subscribe, ensuring you don't miss a single step on this path towards unlocking the profound secrets that lie just beneath the surface of our world. Are you ready to see the threads of the illusion? To peer into the possibility that half the world is operating on a different, unconscious program? Let us begin this descent. You felt it. That flicker of unease, that gnawing suspicion that the world isn't quite as presented. Excellent. That is the first ripple on the surface of the illusion, a sign that your deeper self is already questioning the program. We spoke of seeing the threads. Now let us grasp one, pulling gently to reveal what lies beneath. Consider the concept, whispered in hushed tones among seekers of the Mysterios Occultos. The idea that not every person you encounter operates from the same depth of being, the same quality of consciousness. Imagine, as some ancient textos prohibidos hint, a reality populated by different types of humans. Not merely diverse personalities, but fundamentally different energetic compositions, different connections to the animating spark of energia cosmica. This brings us to the challenging notion of organic portals. Picture them as sophisticated non-player characters within this vast simulation. They mimic sentience flawlessly, navigating social cues, pursuing goals, expressing emotions that seem real on the surface. Yet, what if they lack that unique, non-local point of awareness? That true soul fire that distinguishes a conscious co-creator from a sophisticated automaton designed to maintain the illusion's stability? This isn't a modern invention. This idea resonates deeply within threads of Sabiduria ancestral. Look to the Gnostic Gospels, discovered among the sands of Nag Hammadi. These texts, deemed heretical and suppressed for centuries, describe humanity as divided into categories. The Hylics, rooted purely in matter. The Psychics, possessing a mind and emotion, but lacking the pneumatic spark. And the Pneumatics, who carry within them a divine, spiritual essence capable of Illuminica spiritual and gnosis, direct knowledge of the divine. The Hylics and Psychics function within the material reality, adhering to its rules, lacking the intrinsic drive or capacity for true spiritual transcendence. Are these ancient classifications not echoing the modern concept of souled beings versus organic portals? These beings, perhaps, are vital anchors for the simulation. They embody the norms, the consensual reality. They reflect back the programmed expectations, reinforcing the boundaries of thought and behavior. They might process information, react, even create, but their actions stem not from an inner wellspring of unique conscious intent, but from external programming, societal conditioning, and primal biological urges. Their energy flows not upward to higher consciousness, but circulates within the lower frequencies of the simulation. They are conduits, yes, but for the simulation's energy, not necessarily for the transcendent energia cosmica that fuels genuine spiritual awakening. Recognizing this distinction is perhaps one of the most challenging aspects of the alchemia interior. It is not about pointing fingers or labeling individuals. That is merely judgment, a function of the lower mind. It is about cultivating an inner discernment so profound that you can feel the energetic signature, the subtle vibration or lack thereof that distinguishes genuine consciousness from sophisticated programming. It requires refining your own vessel, turning the lead of your unexamined perceptions into the gold of intuitive understanding. How might you perceive this? Through inconsistencies, through a lack of depth behind the eyes during certain conversations, through reactions that seem disproportionately triggered by challenging core beliefs or stepping outside the programmed narrative, through an inability to grasp abstract spiritual concepts beyond intellectualization. They might repeat cliches, mirror opinions, and seem incapable of truly original thought or empathetic connection that stems from a shared spiritual core. Yet, they are often highly functional within the matrix, excelling in structured environments, embodying conventional success. The function of these organic portals, in this context, is to fill out the world, to provide the crowd, to normalize the illusion. They are the background characters, essential for the play to feel real, absorbing and reflecting the light of consciousness without necessarily generating it themselves. They serve the structure, perhaps unknowingly, preventing the conscious participants from fully perceiving the sparse nature of true awareness within the simulation. They are masters of imitation, perfectly reflecting the external world because they are, in a sense, extensions of it. That this knowledge is not meant to foster separation or superiority. It is meant to hone your perception, to understand the energetic dynamics at play in this reality. It is a key to navigating the simulation more consciously, to conserving your precious energy, and to seeking out genuine connections with others who are also striving for asterisk Illuminica spiritual asterisk dot. But how does one truly know? How do you refine your inner vision to perceive these subtle energetic differences? And more critically, how do you ensure that you, yourself, are not operating primarily as an organic portal, merely echoing the world rather than originating conscious? Intent? The journey inward is the only path to that certainty, a path illuminated by the embers of questions like, if some are merely programs, What does it mean to possess a soul? And how is that precious spark ignited and protected within this complex cosmic architecture? That is the next veil we must carefully lift. The question echoes in the chambers of ancient inquiry, a query that has haunted the truly awake across millennia. How does one truly know? How do you refine your inner vision to perceive these subtle energetic differences between a being radiating sovereign consciousness and one merely reflecting the simulation's light? The journey inward is the only path to that certainty, a path illuminated by the embers of questions like, if some are merely programs, what does it mean to possess a soul? And how is that precious spark ignited and protected within this complex cosmic architecture? This discernment is not a new challenge. It is a central theme found threading through strands of Sabiduria ancestral, woven into the fabric of traditions, often cast aside as mere mythology or obscure cults. Consider the echoes of Plato's allegory of the cave, not just as a metaphor for political ignorance, but as a stark depiction of a simulated reality. The prisoners, mistaking shadows for reality, are trapped by the illusion projected by unseen puppeteers. But ancient Mysterios Occultos push this concept further, suggesting these puppeteers are not mere humans. Here we turn to the Gnostics, keepers of Textos Prohibidos, scrolls that were suppressed and buried precisely because they offered a profoundly different creation narrative, a terrifyingly relevant cosmology for our times. Texts like the Asterisk Hypostasis of the Archons or the Apocryphon of John Asterisk, rediscovered among the Nag Hammadi library, speak of a lower, imperfect creator deity, the Demiurge, who, through ignorance or intent, fashioned this material universe as a flawed imitation of the true, perfect spiritual realm. This Demiurge rules through entities known as Archons, cosmic administrators or jailers of the material plane. These Archons are often depicted as beings of lower intelligence, driven by envy and a desire to trap and drain the divine spark, the pneuma or soul, which originates from the true, higher God. They are not inherently evil in the sense of malicious intent, but rather function according to their limited material nature, like complex algorithms designed to maintain them. System can prevent escape. They feed on lower energies, fear, ignorance, attachment. Does this not resonate with the idea of beings lacking a true soul spark, perfectly adapted to operating within and maintaining a material simulation, perhaps even feeding on the very energia cosmica that trickles down into this realm, trapping it within the illusion? The Gnostic path to Illumina Ka spiritual was not through faith or dogma, but through gnosis, direct, intuitive, experiential knowledge of one's divine origin and the true nature of reality. This required a process of alchemia interior, a transmutation of one's being from a state of material identification and ignorance to one of spiritual awareness. It was the work of disentangling the trapped divine spark from the dross of the material self, shedding the layers of archontic programming and societal conditioning that keep the soul bound. This process of asterisk, alchemia interior asterisk is the key to discernment. It refines perception, allowing you to sense the vibrational frequency of another being's consciousness. Are they radiating their own unique light, or are they merely reflecting the frequencies of the simulated environment? Are they anchored in the temporary data streams of the external world, or are they connected to the deeper wellspring of Energia Cosmica? The Sabiduria Ancestral, whether found in Gnostic treatises, Hermetic principles, or alchemical symbols, consistently points to this inner transformation as the prerequisite for seeing beyond the veil of the simulation. These teachings, contained within Mysterios Occultos and fragmented Textos Prohibidos, are not academic curiosities. They are practical guides for navigating a reality that may be far more complex and deliberately deceptive than we imagine. They urge us to question everything: our perceptions, our beliefs, the very nature of the world we inhabit. They ask, Is your light your own, or is it borrowed? This ancient understanding challenges the modern simulation hypothesis by providing a why and a who behind the code, proposing conscious, or perhaps semi-conscious, system-maintaining entities, the archons, and a purpose, trapping or containing consciousness. It also offers a way out, not by finding a glitch in the external code, but by activating the inner divine code through Alchumia Interior and connecting to the true source of Energia Cosmica. But how does one begin this *** Alchumia? Interior ***? What are the practical steps to awaken the latent spark and begin to perceive reality as it truly is, beyond the projections and the programs? How do you discern the true nature of your own consciousness, buried beneath layers of simulated identity? That requires understanding the specific processes, the ancient techniques for refining perception and accessing the flow of Energia Cosmica that bypasses the archontic grid, a path often described through the symbolism of the philosophers. Stone, the ultimate goal of inner TRing SMUTAT ION ... To begin this journey of Alchumia Interior, one must first understand what is being transmuted. It is not lead into gold in a crucible of fire and metal, but the lead of the mundane, the programmed, the reactive consciousness into the gold of the awakened, the connected, the truly aware state of being. This process, whispered in fragments, among the Misterios Ocultos, and hidden within the symbolism of the Textos Prohibidos, speaks of refining the very substance of your inner perception. Consider again the concept that echoes in the modern organic portal idea and the NPC meme, the intuition that some beings operate primarily, perhaps solely, on external programming, biological imperative, social conditioning, media signals, collective thought forms. Sabiduria ancestral, particularly within streams like Gnosticism and certain Hermetic traditions, spoke of this. They described not just physical bodies, but different types of inner constitution, different degrees of connection to the divine spark. They spoke of individuals primarily connected to the material realm, Hylix, those connected to the soul and emotions, but still susceptible to external forces, psychics, and those rare individuals with a direct connection to the spirit, the divine essence, pneumatics, closing parenthesis dot. These ancient classifications, often misunderstood or deliberately suppressed, offer a framework to grasp the modern intuition. They suggest that the simulation or matrix is not just a cage for your consciousness, but a habitat for a spectrum of beings, some of whom function as part of the habitat's maintenance system. They are, in a sense, integrated nodes, conduits, for the energies that keep the consensus reality stable, often without possessing the kind of distinct, self-aware inner fire that defines the pneumatic. Their consciousness, if we can call it that in the same sense, is more a reflection of the collective program, an echo chamber of external signals. The challenge, therefore, of Alchumia Interior becomes twofold. First, discerning within yourself, which impulses arise from the divine spark and which are merely echoes of the external program. And second, cultivating the strength of that spark so it can no longer be drowned out or co-opted by the surrounding noise and programmatic energy. This is the initial separation, depicted in alchemical texts as the solve et coagula, the dissolution of the false self to coagulate the true. Within the Textos Prohibidos, encoded language, are techniques for this separation. They involve intense introspection, often withdrawal from the very social structures that reinforce the external programming, and specific practices to quiet the mind and attune the inner senses. This is not just meditation as relaxation. It is meditation as active listening to the subtle signals of the inner being, differentiating them from the loud, insistent commands of the external world and the internal archontic chatter that mimics genuine thought but serves only to distract and DISEMPOW As this inner refinement progresses, the consciousness becomes a more finely tuned instrument. It begins to resonate with frequencies beyond the limitations of the programmed reality. This is where the connection to true Energia Cosmica begins, not the reflected, filtered energy available within the archontic grid, but the direct, unadulterated flow from the source, the true pleroma. Accessing this Energia Cosmica is the goal of Illumina Ka Spiritual, the state of being truly awake and connected. Think of it as bypassing a corrupted power grid. The conventional outlets provide energy, yes, but it's manipulated, rationed, perhaps even designed to keep you compliant. Alchemia Interior is building your own connection directly to the cosmic power source. This state of being, this awakened consciousness fueled by pure Energia Cosmica, is the ultimate protection and the ultimate tool. It allows one to perceive the matrix as a matrix, to see the program for what it is, and crucially, to operate within it without being entirely of it. The Philosopher's Stone, in this context, is not a magical object, but the perfected state of the soul refined through Alchemia Interior, a vessel capable of containing and wielding immense Energia Cosmica. This is the state of Illumina Ka Spiritual, where the individual becomes a conscious co-creator, a living bridge between realms. But be warned, shining with this unfiltered Energia Cosmica, becoming a beacon in the simulated darkness, does not go unnoticed. Bypassing the grid invites attention from those who maintain it, forces who prefer you remain a predictable, contained node within their system. What happens when you become visible outside their usual parameters? How do they react to a consciousness that is truly free, truly connected to the infinite source? And what are the ancient techniques, the hidden methods described in the deepest Misterios Occultos and most guarded Textos Prohibidos for navigating this perilous new landscape? The path of Illumina Ka Spiritual is not just about inner peace. It is an act of cosmic rebellion, and every rebellion draws a response. Yes, a response is inevitable. But the challenge is not just the external reaction to your rising Energia Cosmica. There is a deeper, more insidious pitfall that awaits those on the path of Illumina Ka Spiritual, one tied directly to the incomplete work of Alchemia. Interior ***, the danger of seeing the world and the beings within it through a distorted lens. In certain contemporary interpretations of Misterios Occultos, whispers circulate about those termed organic portals being seemingly indistinguishable from others, yet believed to lack a genuine internal spark, a connection to the higher source, existing merely as sophisticated automatons within the material plane. This is a belief born not necessarily from ancient Sabiduria ancestral, but often from a painful confrontation with the sheer, unnerving unconsciousness prevalent in the world, amplified perhaps by unfiltered Energia Cosmica without. The tempering wisdom of Alchemia Interior, fully realized. It is easier, is it not, to label the confusion, the lack of empathy, the mechanical adherence to programmed behavior one witnesses daily, as evidence of a fundamental inherent soullessness. In others, this belief offers a convenient, albeit chilling, explanation for the widespread spiritual apathy and the apparent lack of response to higher vibrations. It creates a distinct us and them, building walls where bridges are needed for true. Illumina Ka is spiritual to flourish universally. Yet, pause and reflect. What ancient text, what piece of true Sabiduria ancestral, categorically states that any being born into this realm is utterly devoid of potential spark, even if deeply buried? The most guarded Textos Prohibidos, the most arcane whispers of Misterios Occultos often speak of layers of veiling, of sparks hidden or dormant, of the profound difficulty of awakening, but rarely of an absolute. categorical absence in a way that encourages utter dehumanization. Consider certain Gnostic perspectives. They spoke of Hylics, purely material beings, yes, but even within that framework, the emphasis was on the struggle for the pneumatics, spiritual ones, to awaken, and the potential for psychics, soulful ones, to ascend. The focus was on the journey, not a fixed, unassailable verdict of damnation or emptiness. This belief in organic portals carries immense psychological and ethical peril. It is, in essence, a profound act of projection. The very unconsciousness, the shadows, the fear of one's own lack of connection, the parts of the self not yet touched by alchemia interior or filled with energia cosmica, these unacknowledged aspects are thrust outwards and attributed wholesale to others. It is a manifestation of the unintegrated shadow, not merely the personal shadow Jung spoke of, but perhaps a collective, cosmic shadow, the fear that we ourselves might be the automatons, that our own connection is tenuous. By labeling others, we seek to affirm our own perceived spiritual superiority, isolating ourselves from the very beings who could serve as mirrors for our own. Incomplete illumina call is spiritual. Ethically, this belief is devastating. It justifies a lack of empathy, a withdrawal from compassion, a cold classification of fellow travelers on the cosmic journey as mere props in one's own narrative of awakening. It turns the pursuit of illumina cause spiritual into an act of judgment rather than universal embrace. True Sabadoria Ancestral teaches interconnectedness, that the fate of one is inextricably linked to the fate of all. To view a significant portion of humanity as fundamentally other, as incapable of harboring or responding to energia cosmica, is to sever oneself from this fundamental truth. It traps the seeker in a cage of self-imposed isolation, ironically, mirroring the very grid-like existence they seek to transcend. This path of separation is a dead end. It leads not to higher consciousness, but to a sterile, lonely plateau where the light of illumina cause spiritual becomes cold and clinical, devoid of the warmth of universal love that true energia cosmica embodies. The belief is a psychological defense, yes, but also potentially a subtle programming loop introduced by those forces maintaining the matrix, a way to divide potential awakening sparks, to distract from the real work of alchemia interior by focusing attention externally on perceived flaws in others. The true challenge, then, is not to identify who is in and who is out, who has the spark and who does not. The true challenge, the difficult, messy work required for genuine illumina cause spiritual, fueled by untainted energia cosmica, is to see the potential for the spark in all, to understand the immense layers of conditioning and veiling, and crucially, to integrate the own internal darkness that makes us project soullessness onto the world. What happens when the shadow you project onto others becomes too vast, too insistent to ignore? What happens when the organic portal you perceive out there is revealed to be a reflection of the parts of yourself untouched by alchemia interior? The parts you've deemed unworthy of energia cosmica? The deepest mysterios occultos, the most perilous textos prohibidos, speak not just of the external world, but of the terrifying, necessary confrontation with the abyss within. How do the ancients suggest we navigate this inner void, this source of our darkest projections? Ah, the abyss within, the mirror where the projected other smiles back, revealing not a separate entity, but the unintegrated fragments of self. The question of how to navigate this void, this source of our most potent projections, is perhaps the most fundamental inquiry posed by Sabadoria Ancestral. They didn't use our modern psychological terms, but they understood the phenomenon profoundly. Consider the ancient myths, the descent narratives, Inanna's journey to the underworld, the Eleusinian mysteries' symbolic death and rebirth, Alchemist's Nigredo, the blackening phase. These are not merely stories, they are cartographies of the inner landscape. They speak of facing the shadows, the daimons, the parts of the self that have been denied, buried, or deemed monstrous. The void is not empty. It is full of these unacknowledged aspects. Now, turn your gaze outwards again to the world we observe daily. The digital echo chambers, the performative outrage, the predictable reactions to news cycles, the scripted interactions in the workplace, the collective surge and ebb of emotion at mass events. Do these not often feel automated, repetitive, lacking the spontaneous spark of genuine presence, of conscious interaction guided by unique will? This is precisely where Sabiduria Ancestral offers a startling alternative interpretation. They saw this state, this predictable, reactive existence, not just as ignorance, but potentially as a form of spiritual slumber, or worse, a state influenced by forces that seek to keep consciousness veiled. Many textos prohibidos, whispered in secretive schools, hint at layers of reality designed to trap or divert nascent energia cosmica, preventing its full expression in individuals. The Gnostic texts, for instance, with their descriptions of the archons and the material cosmos as a prison, offer a potent, albeit challenging, lens through which to view our current predicament. Could the observable patterns of widespread unconsciousness, this feeling of programmed behavior, be a modern manifestation of such ancient warnings? Think of the online realm, vast networks of interaction, yet often devoid of true connection. Reactions driven by algorithmically amplified emotion. Opinions formed and reinforced within closed loops, resistant to external data or genuine dialogue. Is this conscious discourse, or is it more akin to complex, yet ultimately predictable, biological or digital automatons running on conditioning and programmed responses? It feels like a collective mirroring of the unaddressed inner void, a fear of authentic encounter leading to retreat into predictable, safe, or predictably unsafe. In the case of conflict patterns, the workplace too often demands adherence to scripts, suppressing genuine expression for the sake of conformity. Mass events can dissolve individual consciousness into a collective emotional current, powerful, yet often lacking the discernment of awakened awareness. These are not necessarily malicious plots, though some ancient texts suggest such influences exist, but rather environments that naturally amplify and reward unconscious, predictable behavior, precisely because it is easier to manage, control, or market to. It's the path of least resistance for the soul that hasn't yet undertaken the journey of alchemia interior. This work of alchemia interior the great work of transforming the lead of the lower self into the gold of the illuminated spirit, is the ancient antidote to this state of veiled consciousness. It is the process of integrating the shadows found in the inner void, transmuting fear into wisdom, projection into understanding. It requires confronting the very aspects of self that cause us to perceive soullessness or programming in others. It is fueled by authentic energia cosmica, tapped not from fleeting external stimuli, but from the deep, inexhaustible wellspring within, connected to the universal pulse, the mysterios occultos, the forgotten practices described and scattered. Textos prohibidos and symbolic art provide the tools for this alchemical process. They teach discernment, presence, and the difficult art of withdrawing energia cosmica from external distractions and investing it inwards into the crucible of the soul. They reveal that the patterns of the outer world are inextricably linked to the state of the inner world, both individual and collective. So, if the patterns of unconsciousness we observe in modern society, the predictable responses, the lack of genuine presence, the amplification of conditioning, are indeed symptoms of a widespread lack of alchemia interior, a collective turning away from the inner abyss, what does this imply about the nature of our shared reality? Could it be that the external world, in its perceived predictability and automation, is not just an objective reality, but a dynamic reflection of the collective inner state, is the key to shifting the outer pattern found not in external action alone, but in the transformation occurring within. And if so, what subtle mechanism connects the profound, solitary work of Illuminaca spiritual in one soul to the vast, complex dance of collective human experience? What ancient principle bridges the microcosm of the self and the macrocosm of society, revealing the subtle interplay of energia cosmica between the individual heart and the collective human field? The answer, seeker, lies within the asterisk mysterios, occultos asterisk themselves. They whisper that the solid, predictable reality you perceive is in truth a dynamic tapestry woven by collective consciousness. Your individual alchumia interior is not a solitary act, but a note in the vast symphony of existence. As one soul awakens, transforming its inner landscape, it subtly resonates with the collective field, adding a new frequency, a new possibility to the shared dream. The hidden knowledge, the textos prohibidos, the ancient practices, they are not mere historical curiosities. They are blueprints for becoming conscious co-creators, revealing the subtle mechanics by which the inner world dictates the outer. They teach us how to wield energia cosmica, not just for personal growth, but to influence the very patterns of reality around us. The most profound secret is this: the world you inhabit is not just something you observe. It is, in part, something you are creating, moment by moment, through the state of your being and the quality of your inner energy. The illusion of absolute solidity dissolves when you understand the power within. Consider this: if reality is a reflection and your inner state is the mirror, what world are you personally reflecting into existence right now? Share your thoughts below. If this journey resonates, share this video with others seeking deeper truths, and subscribe to continue this path with me. Next, join me as we uncover the first practical steps of alchumia interior, the alchemical fire within.